This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon show with me, Famida Chaudhary on Teachers Talk Radio. Today, we are going beyond lesson plans and textbooks to explore the human side of teaching, experiences, challenges, and moments that shape us as educators.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Yes, listeners, welcome to the lunch show with me, Ms. Famida Chaudhary. Our topic, Beyond the Classroom, a teacher's journey through learning, inclusion, and impact. Let's take into the world of a teacher who has bridged learning gaps, designed curricula for underprivileged schools in India, and worked with autistic teenagers in Kenya. Joining me today is Jeenal Savla, an educator whose journey started not in classroom but in corporate finance, analyzing numbers and market trends. But life had other plans, leading her into education across diverse settings, giving students opportunities beyond just knowledge. Currently pursuing an master's from the University of Wollongong in Dubai, Jinal's career has been shaped by global perspective on student learning and inclusion. Raised in a large Indian joint family, she developed the values of patience, adaptability, and creating inclusive spaces, which she now brings into her teaching practice. Outside the classroom, she's a passionate traveler and trekker, with Mount Kenya among her most fulfilling experiences. Whether in education or adventure, Jeanal believes that growth happens when we step out of our comfort zone. Jeanal, that's so much to learn from you, and welcome to the show. I'm so really excited to go forward today. Jeanal, hi, are you there? I can't hear you.
Now can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you
yes,
believe
yes,
it?
I can hear.
I did a silly mistake which I do in my classroom as well, and this is what happens, right? Our students do this to us, and I'm doing this to you right now. Yeah. So good evening from Dubai, and maybe good afternoon to people who are here listening it from somewhere else in the world.
Yes. So, Jinal, it's really inspiring. It was just that last post that I seen of yours, and I was like, I must have Jinal on my show because it was a little short anecdote that you shared,
Yes.
and it was really thought provoking. And I thought, I'm sure you might have a lot of stories to share with our listeners because my listeners are mostly educators and people who deal with children day in and day out. It could be also parents, adults, so I'm sure there would be a learning to all. So as your story is so unique, and we started off saying that there was a shift from the corporate world to the
Mhm.
teaching field. So what was that turning point, and how would you relate it to us as well? So I'm
Okay.
sure that would be like some key takeaway for our listeners from the start itself. Over to you, Jinal.
Okay, so I think obviously education was not in my horizon when I was studying. In fact, I got my MBA degree, and I was all set to work in the corporate world, make a name for myself. But as I continued to work, and I really worked with some big names in the industry, but somehow there was always this feeling of something which was not fulfilling. I would feel as if I do not have a purpose in life. It was just about going to the office, making money. So there was this feeling which I had, and a feeling of emptiness. So then, I confided with a few friends, and they suggested to me about Bhavishyayan, which is an NGO in Mumbai, which works with the underprivileged children, which you had also mentioned in your intro about me.
Mm-hmm.
So it started as a voluntary work there, and we used to work with the municipality schools, which is like the government aided schools for the underprivileged kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got into the classroom for the first time. And though I joined in as someone who would design the curriculum, obviously because of my organizational skills, which come from my corporate experience. But
Mm-hmm.
there used to be many chances or incidents where I had to step into the classroom when a teacher would be absent or was on a leave or something. And that's how slowly I started teaching, and I realized that I enjoyed teaching. I liked connecting to the kids, I liked the conversation that we used to have. And I also realized that it was not so easy as I thought, that in your head 2 plus 2 is 4, but to convey the same thing to the student, it's another ball game altogether. So
Mm.
that was kind of a challenge, which really got me into this. And I guess that thing sparked a lot of interest for me, and I also felt quite satisfying after I could get that aha moment from the kids. So that is how I think my journey or my foray into education started. For everyone, I feel that, see, not everyone gets a chance to leave what they are doing, even if they are dissatisfied about it. Thankfully, I'm blessed that I could leave what I did not like and get into something which I wanted to do. But if you ever get a chance, I think you should have
Go
that
for it.
faith. Yeah, you should have that leap of faith, I would say.
I'm so I think at the start of a conversation itself you're inspiring us, because you just mentioned that I also mentioned about you that coming out of your comfort zone.
Hmm.
So I think, as you said, if you get an opportunity, you had the choice, you had the option to move about and make things happen for yourself.
Yeah.
And along with that, when you said these aha moments, I really want to start off and trigger uh, your thinking onto, if you could share one aha moment. I'm sure you have many, but something to start off to get our educators thinking on, reflecting on, like what could it be that made you stick on to this profession. And if you could share one aha moment that really is still there with you.
Okay, one aha moment was okay in India. Okay, this was not it. Actually, it was a very touching moment for me, because in India we have this tradition where you touch the feet of your elders out of respect. So
Yeah.
I was in a classroom where you had all these, and we used to teach the grade 3, grade 4, and grade 5 kids. Okay, so quite young.
Uh-huh.
And so out of blue, a kid came and she touched my feet, and I was a little speechless, because that has never happened to me. Because I did not look at myself as this, elderly person who has done something for that kid. But she said, "No, miss, you have done something. You have been special to me, and you teach me so many things. Hence, and that was something which stuck with me, and I was like, oh." I mean, as educators, we keep doing that and we don't realize it. We think that
Like
it's
the amount of respect that children build
yes.
in within themselves for a teacher.
Yes, and I think we are sometimes unaware of it, but you may never know what difference you would be making to that one kid. And I think that's enough, right? That one kid, that one change is
Yeah.
more than enough. You do not have to see a sea of change. So that was one moment which stuck with me, and that's when I realized, that feeling of fulfillment came in, and that's when I
and
looked
and
at
and so true, Jinal, because this cannot be taught. It will just happen, it will just come in.
yeah,
And it will only come in when the child has learned, as you mentioned,
yeah,
made a change in your life. So
yeah,
yes, teachers, do be, you are an epitome of respect to a few, and to many kids, the way you have been changing lives. I'm sure all educators listening must be feeling proud of themselves.
You
With
should. I think we
yes,
should. There are a lot of funny posts about teachers being rock stars, and why are we like or why are we equated to being a rock stars is because where would you hear so many people calling out your name? Where will you always have a big groupie which is following you, so we are like rock stars, and we should look at us in that way only.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and moving forward, Jinal, I've read about your adventures and, of course, through social media itself. But I want you to, again, go back and reflect, I'm sure, think of. You've been teaching in different contexts, like in
Hmm.
Dubai, in India, then back in Kenya.
Hmm.
So, working across cultures, how it
Hmm.
has shaped your approach to teaching? Do you have like a teaching mantra that you have made it by yourself?
I do not know if it's a mantra because some things just become habit, right? So I don't know if that's a mantra, but yeah, their experiences were completely different. Because every time the setting was different, India was largely underprivileged kids, so their expectations and the way and the background, like each, like this is the term which I've heard in my MAD class, which I wanted to use, was funds of knowledge, because each kid has his own cultural and whole thing which comes with him, right? The whole package. So in
Hmm.
India, the kids are brought up differently, especially the underprivileged kids. And versus what I did in Kenya was autistic teenagers, where we used to teach life skills. It was not a classroom setting, but yet we
Hmm.
used to teach them these life skills because we wanted them to earn a livelihood from themselves. And in
Oh,
Dubai, it's a completely different thing because it's a multicultural setting.
yeah.
And some of the kids come from a very privileged background. So, the funds of knowledge or the background or the whole history and the thing that they come up with is very different. So,
Hmm.
uh, there is a lot of difference in the kids, but what I have stuck to is, having those conversation with the kids, be it a kid from India or Kenya or Dubai. I have realized that the only thing that you need to do is listen to them, because they have so much to say, and sometimes unfortunately there may be chances that their parents are super busy or whatever in their life, and they do not have someone who actually hears them or listens to them. So
Mm-mm.
I would only listen to them. I would ask them about their daily life, what is happening back in home, and through that you get so much, you come to know a lot about them, and that can actually build a bridge, can help act as a bridge between you and the student and make them more connected to you. So I would
Mm-mm.
say listening to my kids, asking them about them, is what I have continued, be it India, Kenya, and Dubai. Despite they coming up with different background, all kids only want to be heard. I guess
Yes,
that's
this
what it
is
is.
such a rich perspective that you have given to all of us, that is listening to your students, giving them a listening ear. So this is what I call going beyond the classroom. This is what is a teacher's journey. This is what I think we learn and come up to and we understand when we are doing this day to day life, in our day to day life. Like when you said listening, I remember my classes now. What
Uh-huh.
happens is, like, you start off the day, and the moment you have students coming up early in the morning, some are,
Mhm.
those early arrivals, and they are
Yes.
there, and they are there to see you first in class, the
Yeah.
smiling face, and wish you around. And then you are back onto your laptop, and they're just sitting there.
Mm.
Imagine the learning time that is wasted, first and foremost.
So true.
Secondly, if you give them that listening and you have built that rapport, so
Hmm.
early morning itself will go on a high. You will have conversations
Exactly.
that might trigger, maybe an emotional aspect of the child.
Yes.
Maybe it would be he's just sharing and venting out what happened yesterday, last
Yes.
night, weekend, or he's wanting to share what he's nervous about. And this is where we as educators have a major part to play. I think, if you build that
Yes.
gap and you build that rapport, I think you might be the person who's supporting the learning outcome throughout the day. What do you say, Jinal?
Exactly. I completely agree with you because it's about talking to them in their language and making them comfortable so they become more engaged in the content. You hear about students' intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, the words and the jargons that I've heard. But
Mhm.
like you're saying, once you ask them what happened or how was their day, and when they start talking, you automatically can pick up, clues from them. And when you're teaching them, and if you try to use those clues in your teaching, they automatically become more engaged and more connected to you and to the learning that is actually happening in the classroom. So yes.
Absolutely. I think this is a very simple, basic key takeaway that you have shared with us, but truly impactful and really going to support all of us. I'm sure all educators listening, not even educators, I think parents and
Yeah.
anyone from dealing with children,
Children,
I think
yes.
listening and giving them a listening ear is what Jinal is about
I
to
would feel
have
that's
shared
what.
with us
Yeah.
is crucially important.
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah. And there would be like even that and listening with the context of building a rapport with the
Rapport.
child. Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to be genuinely interested. Like I had a kid who would do, I think, go-karting in his, like he would do this karting races. After it was an after-school activity. Initially, I would just ask him like, "What did you do when you went back home?" And he would say, "Yes, I went for my karting practice." And then I was like, "Yeah, great. What happens?" Because I have no idea how it is and what happens. Slowly, slowly, he realized that I am really interested, and eventually, he got so hooked on to telling me about his story that even a scratch that he would get on his feet or a bruise that he would get, he would come the next day. The first thing he would show it to me, he says, "See, I've got a new tattoo on my body," because that's how I told him. Tattoos, when you grow up, these marks would stay with you, and you would remember, oh, this race, this scratch or this mark was because of this race or that race or things like that. So he was the one who would not be the most engaged kid in the classroom, but because of this discussion he would still be interested and wanting to come to school and wanting to listen to what we are
Yes,
teaching.
yes, yes. I mean, that's absolutely so true of what you said. Sometimes just that rapport building would take even our classroom discussion forward. Somebody who's been reluctant might be an introvert, but because of the daily conversations just
Mhm.
with the teacher and the icon that he sees and he connects with, he will definitely go ahead and do in class. I'm so glad, Gina, we started off on a high, and that this is something that we as educators must build within
Yes,
ourselves
yes.
of giving a listening ear and building up a rapport with students. So moving forward, Jinal, I would also wanted to take this discussion of what is something as student-centered classroom for you, because
Mhm.
as you said, though you dealt with different cultures, but ultimately you would have dealt with human beings, our students, right?
Mhm.
So across cultures, whatever the part of the
Hmm.
world we are in, but what do you feel is a student-centered classroom?
I think students centered or be it for any child, they want a safe and a welcoming environment. So that's one thing as teachers which we can easily do, create a safe and welcoming classroom environment where they feel valued and heard. Because if they feel that they are comfortable, they are likely to be more engaged, and it's going to become more it's more about them and not about the teacher. Like in my classroom, I have this wall where I have this art gallery where, whatever small drawing or art or origami or whatever the kids do, I always display it, so making them realize this is their classroom and this is where their work will be celebrated and valued. That is one of the things that I do, to make them firstly comfortable in the classroom and knowing that this is their place. This is not, there's no
Their
teacher
second
who's
home.
gonna, yeah,
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 their
this like,
second home.
yeah, exactly, because they're spending so much time with us. They shouldn't feel reluctant, or they should not have any reservation about coming to the classroom. That is one of my first things that I do, ensure to make that relationship that it's a family that is here. And in family, you're allowed to make mistakes, speak out, and things like that. So that's one of the first things that I do to ensure that the classroom itself is student centric.
Mm.
The other thing that I couldn't think of is, those are the other, aspects which have to do with the pedagogy, where you say that, your questioning or the way you assess them and all those, where you are continuously taking their feedback and things like that. So those were the other aspects. But for me, largely it is this
The
other,
sense of
yeah,
belongingness, I
the sense of belonging, which I think makes it more student centric, because they know that it is, if they believe that this is theirs, then like how if we know that this is our home, and we can do things around here, nothing like it, right? So then they'll be giving in their best.
I think, Jinal, you really again pointed out with something very important is getting your classrooms in such, I mean, just designing your classroom spaces in
Hmm.
such a way that kids feel the value of that they belong to this classroom and this is their class,
Yes.
the feeling that yes, I have entered my second home, as I said. But you gave an example of maybe you have an art board, or
Wall.
yeah,
Yeah.
an art wall, or a gallery, basically art gallery, where they put up their uh, you know
Yeah, whatever small
yeah.
drawing, origami, whatever they have done. So, and
So
I
I'm just thinking out of the box, like
yeah.
just now in a minute or
Hmm.
something. Can you think of something that our educators must have in their class to have or encourage the sense of belongingness besides the art gallery, what you mentioned?
Besides the art gallery, what can they have to make the classroom feel? Maybe because in Dubai we have this multicultural thing. We always we always start the class sometimes with everybody greeting in their own mother
Language.
tongue as well, in their own
Mm-mm.
language as well. So that is also something which we do. So immediately they don't feel that, because we also have ELL students in our classroom, we don't want them to feel that just because they are in an English setting school they have to forget about their culture or
Mhm.
anything. So we ensure that the first thing, I mean, when they come, I also ensure that they speak, or they can greet everyone in their own language. So that is also one thing which makes them feel okay, fine, they are welcome with whatever culture that they come with.
Mm-hmm.
That
So
is.
maybe a routine of getting the children connected to their roots,
Yes.
thereby let them practicing their mother tongue in class. I think
Yes.
that's what.
Yeah. I want them to be comfortable as they are, and that the whole class is accepting of them as the way they
Oh,
are.
I think we are really going on great, Jinal. And
Mhm.
this is something really unique that you have come up with, because generally, being
Hmm.
like in English, if you have English as a first language, or
Yeah.
the school being an English, language
Curriculum.
school,
Yeah.
curriculum school, they generally tend to make sure that you're only speaking in
Speaking.
English. But
True.
the matter of fact that the children must learn different languages, like you have Arabic here as a compulsory language, but along with it, the children do have an option to choose a second language. So
Yes.
when we are in the way of wanting the kids to have that diversity, then why not in a daily classroom, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Exactly.
that's an amazing thing that you have, fantastic idea that you have come up with. So one
Uh-huh.
is the art gallery, designing an
Yeah.
art wall, and secondly having conversations with that language. And I'm sure with the today's times where we have the AI in hand and so
Hmm.
much of technological advancement, we teachers ourselves, even if they're talking, something can translate it, if I'm
Ah,
not wrong.
yeah, absolutely. And that is so true. I mean, our life has become easier and difficult with AI. That is a reality, right? It has made our
Yeah.
job a little easier,
Mm.
but at the same time, you may never know what the kids are doing with the AI, whether they are using it ethically
Absolutely.
or not. So that's another thing about AI, and that's another discussion altogether.
Yes, yes. But yes, as I said, that's a great, fantastic, innovative idea that you've given us. I will just take a quick break and we'll be back with a conversation on beyond the classrooms, the conversations that we are
Sure.
having right now.
Yeah. See you guys. Yeah.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading!
Okay, welcome back. And that was the short break that we had. I'm going to have another news break, which will come a little later, Jinal. But
Mhm.
going forward, and to our listeners who have just tuned in, I can see we have many who have joined us today.
Okay.
And we have people who have joined in from India, of course, I know, because we have our guest who is like,
Yeah.
has
And
taught
so
the
many
outsiders.
sisters and uncles and aunts. I can see all of them there.
Absolutely. So, just letting our listeners know, this is the lunch show with Famida Chaudhary, and my topic for today is Beyond the Classroom, a teacher's journey through learning, inclusion, and impact. So, Jinal has just shared with us a few tips of how learning can take place with just embedding the skill of listening. Like, as an educator, you can listen, build up a rapport with the students, and this listening is not just like curricular or pedagogical listening. It is looking at listening from a perspective of students sharing their experiences. And moving forward, I want to now look at
Hello.
inclusion and impact. So, looking at inclusion, Jinal, what would you
Yeah, hi.
yeah, I'm listening to you. Hi.
No, I thought the show went off for some time for me. I do not know. Maybe it was my internet. I do not know. Yeah.
No, 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 you're there, you're there. So
Hmm.
it's going off well, and it was just a little sound glitch, but that's
It was, right?
perfect.
Ah, okay, fine. So it wasn't me.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
So, yeah, so going back to our topic, so
Hmm.
I'm looking at, we said learning. Now, inclusion is something that I'm looking at. I'm sure
Yeah.
I want to really ask you as to what would be your take on this term inclusion itself. So, something which you knew before teaching and before being an educator, and now currently what it is.
Okay, so okay, inclusion when I started my journey was largely with this, I don't want to use the word charity, but it is like, you had this feeling that I want to help this person out. And this was coming from a place of, they not having the skills or anything. And then because I have it, I have to help the student out. So it was largely a charity model where I wanted to help them. But now I can clearly see that, inclusion is not about that. Inclusion is. Us modifying the accommodating them. Largely it's always a societal or a classroom environment barrier. It's not that they are intellectually challenged or something. It's just that
Mm-hmm.
we have to adapt to them by providing them the necessary environment or resources. So inclusion for me is not about the impairment that they have, but disability in terms of what resources we can give them. So if we can plan our worksheets or our activities keeping those things in mind, their impairment will not be a disability at all. I mean, impairment and disability are two different things. So for me, if we provide them with the right resources, there is no such thing as a disability then, and then it will become like an inclusive classroom. So I'm
How
sure,
about
and in Dubai, anyways, there is a lot of emphasis on having an inclusive classroom because no more you do not have segregated classrooms. You have these students with you in the classroom itself. So inclusive is being able to reach all of them. Yeah, being able to reach all of them at their level. I guess that is what I would look at it as.
sharing an example on this?
Inclusive classroom. Okay. So, see, largely we all do this. We have those differentiated worksheets or the tiered worksheets or something that we all do. But, what I've realized is more than that, sometimes the kid doesn't appreciate that, he's always getting the low ability worksheet or he's getting a different worksheet or something like that. So, I have moved away from that. And what we do generally is we have a worksheet which has one big goal which is related to the learning objective, and the extensions or the other tasks follow from them. So when a student gets a worksheet, it would be the main learning objective related task which would be really pitched at a higher level for everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
then they are given these other options as well, so they have to do the main task, and the teacher will be the one who's scaffolding that task for me. So I would scaffold that task for the lower ability or differently abled kids, and the independent kids would automatically do it. And then they also have these extensions which will make the task meaningful for everyone at their level. So that was one thing which I have realized helps, you know
Mm-hmm.
scaffolding the activity and giving them those main tasks along with those little extensions or supports.
Okay, so that's something that you want, that you do with your classroom, in
Classroom.
like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when you say inclusive classrooms. But
Yes.
how about, okay, this is related to academics. How about dealing or having a balance with academics and life skills, for that matter?
For the differently for making it an inclusive classroom, how do I accommodate for the life skills as well?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're going. I
Like developing, maybe even for that matter, confidence, curiosity, or resilience in the students.
Okay, so you're touching upon the socio-emotional part of it. So I guess that happens because not all tasks would be individual tasks. There are a lot of projects that we make that we give to the students, which would involve students who are at different levels of ability. So that automatically builds a rapport among those students, and each student is given a job in that task or a group project. So automatically they have this feeling of being someone in the group and contributing to the group. So this does impact their motivation, and thus impacts their socio emotional. I mean, we're touching about the socio emotional learning part of it. So doing group projects is one of the things that we include.
So
uh,
basically giving them an opportunity
yeah,
in these
yeah,
ways.
by not just assessing them based on single worksheets, but doing a lot of these other kind of tasks as well,
Yeah.
by making them feel, they are part of something, and then, their part is equally valued when they are participating in all these tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So I think basically we are looking at respecting their decisions, or giving them an opportunity
hmm,
by collaborating,
hmm,
and giving them, maybe the tasks would involve not only collaboration, but yes, it, as you said, scaffolds. So
hmm,
even the instruction based scaffolds, basically. So that is how an inclusive
yes,
classroom would look like, with
yes,
these things that are really taken care of by teachers who look into that perspective. So
exactly.
yeah,
and
I'm
and especially because currently I work as a learning assistant, so I definitely deal with these small groups of students, where
Mm-mm.
I am scaffolding the task for them, or making it easier for them, or helping them out. So those are the kind of that definitely falls upon me, to ensure that that is happening for them. Like, I had a student, okay, he was not doing well in the math class, and obviously he would be pulled out sometimes. Largely there would be in class support, but there would be times when I would pull him out of the class, and there was a time when I did a topic again with him, and the next day when he went back to the class, the teacher had put up some questions on the board, and then the teacher was asking the students to come one by one, and to solve the question that she has put up on the board. And I saw, and the teacher told me the next day that that student actually raised his hand and said that he wanted to do the sum, which was surprising for the teacher as well. And it's because maybe his confidence, he was confident that he would be able to do that. I was more happy about the fact that he raised his hand. That is, he had the confidence that he would go up to the front and do the sum. Even if it was wrong, I was okay with it.
Yeah.
For me, I think building that confidence was more important.
Yeah,
Because
that's the life skill that I was talking
yes,
about. Yeah.
yes,
So
so yeah,
you, maybe those pull-out sessions were helpful in
helpful,
strengthening his concepts, and then
exactly,
finally we could see the result where he could, where he was
yeah,
able to answer
yes,
the question confidently in
yes,
class with his peers. Because I know for a few students, just that independent learning, or standing up and speaking for themselves, is
yes,
something which is highly, it has to be encouraged, and something which is
encouraged.
important.
True,
Yes.
true, true. It's a very important skill to have, to be able to say your thing and your word, especially in this world right now where everybody wants to say something. If you do not get a chance to say your voice, it's not worth it, right?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. We'll just quickly take a news break and come back, Jinal. And when we come back, I would want you to share that same very post that you had posted
Okay.
recently, and give us a little more insights when you mentioned that, teaching, or the job of an educator is so much that is not just looking at academics or something, but it's beyond that. And these are some moments that have made you realize that you're in the right profession. So keep on those thoughts with you. And I'm sure this question, all of us can think why we were or why we have taken this as our profession, and how do we look at ourselves contributing towards it. So I leave all our listeners with that message, and we'll be back after a short news break.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
In this week's education news, The Guardian, The Standard, and several other newspapers report that the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, pledges to tackle chronic skills shortages by abolishing the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education and replacing it with a new body called Skills England. The bill, which will transfer the functions of the Apprenticeships and Technical Education Institute, reached its second reading in the House of Commons and was passed by 317 votes to 55. In support of the bill, Phillipson said, "The skills gaps that we face in our country deny people the opportunity, the power and the freedom to choose the life that they want to live." Critics of the bill argue that the new body, Skills England, will not be truly independent and will not have the respect of the profession. Phillipson responded by saying this approach was necessary because of the urgency of the skills shortage. Periodical Schools Week carries the story of ex-schools inspectors who have launched the Alternative Big Consultation on Ofsted report cards. Former senior officials behind the Alternative Big Listen last year fear that current proposals to change the inspection system are being presented as take it or leave it. Frank Norris and Colin Richards have therefore created the Alternative Big Consultation to independently gather opinions on plans for new report cards. The survey, which launched this week and closes on April the 4th, will run alongside Ofsted's own official 12-week consultation, which closes on April the 28th. The Alternative Big Consultation comprises the same questions as the government's own consultation on the plans, but also asks respondents if they believe the proposals are fit for purpose. Many teachers and school leaders have expressed their view on the proposed report card model that it's hardly an improvement and contains many of the weaknesses of the previous system. Also in the news this week, the Daily Express covered a story with the title "Save Our School Playtime." It went on to explain that experts warn of dire consequences as the break times in schools are cut. A report by the Raising the Nation Play Commission found outdoor playtime at school is being squeezed out of children's lives and must be restored. The Guardian carried a story under the headline "Ministers urged to add audio books to England's new schools curriculum." A poll by the National Literacy Trust found that children's enjoyment of listening to audio and podcasts had risen compared to the previous year, overtaking their enjoyment of reading for the first time since the charity began asking about audio in 2020. The charity said it was therefore advocating for increased access to and a broadening of the variety of reading formats available to pupils, to include audio. Jonathan Douglas of the NLT stated, "In recent years, we've seen a steady rise in children's enjoyment of listening to audio and uncovered the myriad benefits it can bring. For from sparking a love of reading to deepening learning and boosting well-being. PES Magazine reported this week that primary school PE training was woefully inadequate. As reported to MPs, the chief executive of Youth Sport Trust called for PE to become a core subject to drive up standards and improve fitness. Giving evidence to the Commons Culture, Media and Sport Committee, Ali Oliver called for PE to become a core curriculum subject with much higher status, and she told the committee that training problems were exacerbating the situation where there were 41,000 fewer hours in 2020-23 compared to 2011 and 12. Less than half of children are getting what the chief medical officer recommends as the minimum amount of activity. More worryingly, we know that 30% of children get less than 30 active minutes a day. LBC News reported that a teacher was sacked after a joke about whacking a pupil over the head was misunderstood. Lakshmi Subrian, who had taught for over 35 years, was sacked after a school child who spoke English as a second language misunderstood the comment. The teacher was dismissed from Gilbert Colvin Primary School in Ilford, East London in 2023 following the incident. Miss Subrian took the school to an employment tribunal, claiming the remark had been made in jest while teaching Year 6 pupils and preparing them for their maths SAT exam. Speaking at the disciplinary hearing in July 2023, she said the child's decision to continue attending her after-school club showed they had not been that upset. However, she lost the appeal. Teachers' unions supporting Miss Subrian argue that this case adds to the vulnerability many teachers feel when a single ill-judged remark could end a career. And finally, a piece of research by the British Educational Research Association. Like many pieces of research, it shows something we might have always suspected was true. In their paper, A Century of Educating Britain's Political Elite, Privilege Masquerading as Meritocracy, they show how Oxbridge and private schools, called in Britain public schools, dominate the selection of cabinet ministers and prime ministers. Oxbridge educated 14 of 21 prime ministers between 1922 and 2022. Unsurprisingly, they conclude that the concentration of elite formation systems raises concerns that their graduates will suffer from groupthink. Analysing a series of important decisions made across the 20th century, it seems certain attitudes, such as the necessity to accept neoliberalist economics, the importance of Britain as a world power, and above all the acceptance of class privilege itself, go unchallenged. Well, there's a surprise. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News, brought to you by John Gibbs.
That was the news for today. Welcome back to the lunch show with me, Ms. Famida Chaudhry, teacher on Teachers Talk Radio. And we are going beyond lesson plans and textbooks, exploring the human side of teaching. We have Jinal Savla with us, and she is sharing her experience of being an educator for years and having different cultural background teaching experiences. And we left the show by a question to all of us to reflect on why we are in this profession. And recently, Jinal had posted a very thought provoking post, and I would not take the show away. I want Jinal to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So this happened a couple of weeks back. So we have this math assessment which we do. It's obviously not a very high pressure situation, but the students are supposed to do the test by themselves. So there was this student who's a little differently, who has diverse learning needs, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was a word problem, and he just raised his hand, and we can I mean, I would read the question to him just to make him understand. So while reading, I asked him some guiding questions, which would help him lead to the answers. So while doing that, he came to the answer and he wrote the answer. So after he wrote the answer, he said, Miss, but this is a graded assignment. I said, yeah, it's a graded assignment. And you helped me. So I said, yeah, but so what? And he actually wrote on his paper that Miss Geenal helped me in this question. And I was speechless because, I mean, where does this? And he was so principled, so honest about it. Nobody does that, right? Even
Right.
adults sometimes don't do that. And I was completely in awe of that kid for doing that. And I mean, later on, I explained to him that no, no, it was just me who was guiding the questions, but the actual answers came from him. So it's okay that, it was completely him who was answering the question. So these are moments in the classroom, which make me, which make it very warm for me to, know that I am in the right field. I have another story like this, like when I had another student,
Uh-huh.
the same kid who was doing go-karting, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because he got so interested and because he thought because of the genuine connection that we developed, so he had a fracture once on his hand after a go-karting race. But however, the next day, in our school we have this cultural performances, and I was gonna perform one of the dances in that show. He came
Uh-huh.
to school just to attend that, and he's saying, Miss, I'm not gonna miss it for anything. Even with a fractured arm, I'm gonna come and see you. These
Ah.
small incidents make me feel that wow, these are people who really
Make you
value
feel
you.
like a star,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And more than a star,
yeah,
I feel make you feel valued. That
exactly.
I am so important for such,
Yes,
like for a few students,
yeah,
and in the bargain of what, just teaching them, or maybe making
yeah.
a
I
change by.
teaching is also, yeah. It's not. I mean, it's a great thing we are doing, right? We are
Yes,
helping
yes.
them learn about things and guiding them through things. So I really cherish these moments.
I
You
am so amazed to hear that you are also a dancer, Jinal, and
Oh,
like you are a
I
power,
did not think I
you
danced
are a
well.
power-packed person. Where I look at you from a person who's a trekker, somebody who loves traveling, now dealing with students from a different perspective, all of it, because one is dealing with children, all of the children in class, and you have you need to challenge students, average student, but you are dealing with students who have different learning disabilities, or would have different issues, right?
Yeah,
And looking them from that perspective. So I'm now going I'm my next quick question to you would be, I'm sure this passion of trekking and traveling has come from somewhere, but how about, what do you think, like what anything that from those experience have you brought into your classrooms? Or do you think as educators, I'm sure as individuals, forget as educators, we all have a passion,
Hmm.
like like what I'm doing right now along with
Yeah.
teaching. I had a passion to host shows and get
Hmm.
to get to the wider audience, to get connected with different
Hmm.
educators. And
And
I'm living the passion, okay? So I'm
hmm.
sure, and I take this back in my classrooms as well, where I really
Hmm.
want to see my children also, who are under my care, as great
Hmm.
communicators, or people confident communicators and
Hmm.
listeners
Yeah.
from that point of view. So I think, that balance between your passion and your profession
Is important.
is important. And I'm sure if you are living your passion along with your profession, you would
Hmm.
be getting the passion best experiences into your profession.
True. It
What's your take
gives.
on this?
Yeah, I completely agree with you because that makes your life worth living if you're able to do your work as well as able to follow your passion. You have to work for your stomach, you have to work for your heart as well. So if you follow your passion, it's for your heart and for your soul. Whereas whatever your profession is for your stomach, you need to earn the money.
The
So that
daily bread,
yeah,
yes.
that is also there, but I'm glad that I can follow my passions. And I clearly remember after climbing the Mount Kenya, the school that I was working with, the principal said that you have to talk about this to the students or the wider students in a sports forum. We had a sports meet that day, and she said
Uh-huh.
you have to talk about it, that how did you manage it along with, because obviously you can't just decide one day and climb Mount Kenya. You have to prepare for.
Absolutely.
So it was a lot of rigorous preparation for it, which took 3 months, and to balance it with your work, It was a little taxing, it was time consuming, but because we had the passion to do it, you do not feel it like a chore, and you do it with a lot of interest and it, right? So
Yes.
I did it, and when I went up to speaking about it, I just said that, for me, it is like, fitness. It was more to do with fitness, in the sense that for me, fitness is like brushing your teeth. That's what I said to the students, that, when you wake up in the morning and you decide to brush your teeth, you don't decide. It's part of you, right? It's everything that you have to do. The same thing for me.
Mandatory.
That's mandatory. It's just there. It's given, right? It's the same way fitness should be given. Why should we it be like, no, today I will decide to jog, or today I will decide to exercise? It is something you need to do, because like brushing, fitness is something you need to do it for yourself, for your health, not just for your teeth, what you do in terms of brushing. So that was the thing. And after a week, I had a student whom I was not teaching in the school, a higher grade kid. She came to me and she said, even I want to trek a mountain one day. And that touched me, like, that small thing that I said maybe sparked something in her, that it is something that can be done, and it is something that is important to be done. So I thought that was a good thing that happened, that my passion, I could share it with the wider audience, and it touched at least one kid in wanting to do something and stepping out.
Similar to what you've done. Yes.
Yeah, stepping out of their comfort zone. In fact, there's another thing, because now that I'm doing my MA, and I'm doing it pretty much late in my life. So the same kid who wrote about Miss Geenal helping me in the math assessment,
Uh-huh.
it was some conversation which happened, and I just mentioned him that, I need to go to my college. And he was shocked. He's like, "You go to college, miss? Are you still young? What is your age?" And I was zapped, because, for him, I think he believes that you can go to college only at a particular age. You're not allowed to go college when you grow older. So now
Correct.
when I tell them that, no, it's not that, I am, as much, I am of this age and I still want to study. So
Mm.
he was completely speechless, and I still remember his face. And this has happened to me for a couple of kids. I've seen this whenever I say that I'm going to my college, I'm still studying. They are like, completely surprised and amazed, and I hope it triggers that thought in them that, it's okay, you can study at whatever age you
Age
want.
you want to, correct. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like
so, as
education
teachers,
never ends. You can just
exactly.
take it up at any point in your life.
Yeah, so, as teachers, we can inspire them in these other ways as well, by, whatever passions we are following, or whatever things that we are doing. And if we talk about them, you may be surprised that, some kid is actually thinking about it in another way. So,
Yes. And it might remain with them,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes. I
So,
think for us also, as kids, when we were school kids, the fondest memories are also about these incidents which we had with our teachers, right? Not about the grades that we got, but about these small, small incidences that
absolutely.
teachers taught us.
Yeah, I still remember my science teacher
Huh.
who, like, of course, I was never an introvert, but
Huh.
the point that this science exhibition is something that used to happen every year.
Okay.
And I always wanted to be a part of it, but was that competitive spirit that I had rather than knowledge
Participating,
taking,
yeah.
or or supporting, learning, basically
Yeah.
researching, or taking it forward and coming, sparking some, there's those light
Yeah.
bulb moments.
Hmm,
So my
hmm,
teacher was like, the moment you learn that you have to spread the knowledge, in the bargain gain some knowledge and
hmm,
present
hmm.
the knowledge, is where I think you will be,
Wow.
going forward. And then
Wow.
when I understood her point of view, and I researched on something, like,
Yeah.
very unique at that point, that was biotechnology. I remember
Ooh.
I was at grade 8, and I researched so much. I read about
Wow.
DNAs, and everything I did to
And this was
just,
time where researching was not that easy, okay? Like how it
yes,
is now.
yes. And I made sure that I would, give my best, not in terms of the speech or this, but in terms
Mhm.
of the knowledge that I've gained and what I want to explore as
Oh,
a research. And then that was like, this is, and our school won that year, so I
Wow.
not only participated but got
Oh.
accolades for the school. So I think, these, and it still remains with me. This was like
Hmm.
back years back
Yeah, so
down
your
there.
teacher said something and it stayed with you and it made you do something, which you would have not done otherwise, right? Had the
Yeah.
conversation not happened.
And the thing is that the learning outcomes would be so good. I mean, not good would be an understatement. It would be so great that it's
Hmm.
worth celebrating. So I think, I'm sure there are such, I'm so sure that those who are listening to us, if
Hmm.
educators, not educators, you have all connected with some point of time in your life where your teachers have encouraged you, you've learned a
Absolutely.
skill in school only through those
Yes.
amazing, what you say, unique moments, actually, where teachers have had a conversation, given you that
Yes.
pat on your back, or given you
Yes.
that advice, and you have taken it forward and it has still remained with you.
Yeah,
So
that's
going on to my next question,
Hmm.
and the
Hmm.
last one, Jinal, that would be, is any unforgettable moment that reminds you, or will remind all of us, why we teach?
Okay, so obviously there are many, because so like I said, the dance performance that I did after I came back to the class, there was a small note written by one of the students who said that you were so good, Miss Gina, and it stayed with me in the sense they appreciate such small things, whatever. Even if it was not like a great performance, though you think that I'm a dancer, I did not. I just participated it because I enjoy dancing and I believe that I dance well, but I know it's not true. But the student wrote such nice small note for me that I was like, wow. Also, in my school, if you have attended the school or if you have not been absent like for any day, you get a certificate for coming to school every day as a teacher. Okay, so I got that certificate, and the moment my students saw that certificate on my table, they got so happy and they started cheering for that certificate. I mean, for me, it was such a small thing, right? It's part of my job to come to school, but the students are celebrating it so much. Their love is so pure. It's not transactional. Like as adults, we would
Yeah,
we would
innocent.
congratulate or say something nice to someone only if there's a reason, right? But
Uh-huh.
these kids just surprise me sometimes of their pure love. Also,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of funny incidents. Like I had this student once, and we have this Halloween celebration in our classroom. So he said me the day before Halloween, Miss, you are not dressing up for Halloween. I said, no, I will be dressing up. So he was like, no, Miss, you don't have to dress up. I was like, why? Why do I have to dress up? You get the point, right? He decided to say that, Miss, you guys are teachers. You're already scary. You don't need to dress up to scare us. And I was like, wow. I he had the courage to come and say that you guys are scary. Hence, I was happy because of the relationship we had. He knew he could get
He
away
was
with
able to express himself.
he could get away with a joke like that. So I
Yeah.
mean, such funny stuff. Also, what I like about teaching is, I see these kids, doing their silly things. Either they, like in my classroom, I have these soft chairs, they would roll on the soft chairs, or they will play with the slime, or they will have some silly talks and all. It
Mhm.
brings back all those memories for me when I was a child. So I get to live that every single day. I am so happy that I get to live that every single day through these kids because when I see them doing that, it brings back a memory for me when I was a kid. So
So
for
you're
me,
getting connected to your childhood.
I really enjoy this playfulness of the kids. So their playfulness, their innocence, their pure love is all those things which which makes me want to continue to be in this field. And I always thank that, good I made this leap of faith. Good I decided to become a teacher.
Oh,
So
and so
yeah, I'm so
I
happy.
think all art. I think this is a of such a pure and a lovely message that you're giving, Jinal. I'm sure many teachers I know of
Mm.
who get into the profession and now they think, oh my God, I just want to
Yeah.
leave it. So
Yeah.
I'm doing so much. But the crux of it, you
Yeah.
have actually taken out the essence of
Hmm.
teaching, that it isn't just a profession, but it's a commitment to lifting others up, seeing potential, giving students the tools to shape their own futures. The examples that you have shared with us, just giving a listening ear, building up the rapport with your students.
Hmm.
I think today's conversation has just left those reflection points with me and with all those who are listening, that if you are an educator, you are for a purpose, and the students under your care really think up to you, I mean to say look up to you and think you as they're everything. So with all due respects, with uh, that love for the teachers that the students have, we all believe that teaching is indeed a noble profession.
Absolutely. So well said, well structured, Pamida. I'm so
Yeah,
glad I
thank
could
you
be
for sharing
here.
your journey and wisdom with us, Jinal. And to all our listeners, I really want to thank you for tuning in, because I think, I'm sure our simple conversation has left deep thoughts in your minds. So let's continue to build classroom where every student belongs, every voice matters, and learning goes beyond the textbook.
Um,
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep inspiring. Jinal, any last words you want to tell the listeners too?
No, I really had a good time because while preparing or while I'm having this conversation, all those thoughts came back to me, and it's again bringing back a smile on me. So thank you for this, Famida.
Yes, and
Thank you.
and to me too, Jinal. Thank you. I'm also leaving the show with a smiling face and with that contentment that I am in the right profession. Thank you, Jinal, and to
Thank-
our listeners.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.